Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining us this week in America and the Blue Funk Broadcasting Radio Network. Great to have you with us in the program today. We're going to give you some ideas on how to save a little bit on grocery shopping, save a little bit of money, as well as possibly enjoying the food you have a little bit more. With us is Sue Perry, Deputy Editor of Shop Smart Magazine. The newest edition is out. The topic is going to be 21 creative ways to cut food costs. We've had Sue on before talking about several of the ways. There were so many we're going to pick up on these because you may say, well, that's like $60, $70 savings a year. You put 5 or 6 of those together and suddenly you're talking real money. And in some cases, you may enjoy the food a little bit more. Sue, first of all, welcome back to This Week in America. Great to have you with us.
Oh, thank you.
You're becoming like a co-host on the program. I'm sort of visiting the Sue Perry show today. Let's go pick up one. This is interesting because instead of packaged bread and rolls, you suggest trying supermarket baked goods, and you can save money that way.
Yeah, I mean, we actually found, sometimes you think that the supermarket baked goods, because they look a little bit fancier and they're in a separate area, that they're more expensive. But we found that they're often a lot less than the name brand alternatives. In fact, we shopped locally. We went and shopped for all of these things, and we found hot, right out of the oven rolls for about $1.99 for 6 of them, whereas the store brand was $3.19. That's a pretty big savings right there, and they're tasty, and they were right out of the oven. So don't automatically think that those things are more expensive. Often they're not.
Here's something that sometimes gets confusing. One of the tips you have is instead of fresh vegetables, try frozen produce. And we're worried about, how's it going to taste? Is it going to be any good? Are we losing any nutritional value? And you say you should really consider that. Absolutely.
Well, the frozen stuff is usually picked at the peak of freshness, at their peak, and then they're frozen very quickly. And so you're getting something that's nutritious, and you're getting something that does have taste. Is it going to taste as good as something that was just picked off the farm? No, probably not. But it's going to taste pretty darn good. And then you've already got this stash of great produce right sitting in your freezer ready to go to make meals or to have a side dish. And when you see a sale, you can stock up on them. They're easy to put in your freezer because they're all in little boxes that stack neatly. So they're often a lot cheaper than the fresh. So frozen's a good way to go.
You're listening to This Week in America on the Blue Funk Broadcasting Radio Network, website thisweekinamerica.us. Sue Perry, Deputy Editor of Shop Smart Magazine, with us in the program. Her website, shopsmartmag.org. It's available all around the country. Great new edition that's out there. You'll find it in major retailers like Barnes & Noble, Walmart, Borders, Kroger, Safeway, Publix. You can also subscribe to the magazine online by going to shopsmartmag.org. One other one that I like, and there's so many of these, there are 21 of these, instead of pricey cuts of meat, you say use less expensive, and you can save money, and you've got a good meal as well.
Oh, absolutely. There are so many. Actually, when you go to restaurants these days, and people are not doing that as much, but when you do, you're going to see that the restaurants are using cheaper meat cuts. So if they're doing it and you're paying for that, you can do that at home and use cheaper meat cuts, get out your crock pot. Often they might take a little bit slower cooking or a little bit handle a little differently. They might need a marinade if they're a little bit tougher than what you're normally used to, but you can save a lot of money.
And you're saying chicken is a good substitute.
Chicken is a great substitute, and buying the whole chicken, cutting it into parts yourself also saves you money. And in fact, in this issue, we give you some little butchering tips on how you can cut down bigger cuts of meat and chickens and so forth yourself at home and save a lot of money.
Oftentimes we get bread and it's stale and we're ready to throw it out. You suggest you can use it for ready-made croutons, and you tell us how to do that, and they're great.
It's a great crouton, absolutely. Instead of buying those, and we're not talking major money when you're buying croutons, but here you're using up the bread, you're not throwing anything out, and you don't have to, and it's going to taste better too.
Instead of hamburgers, try beans.
Yes, we are saying that if you just give up one meat meal a week and substitute beans, you're going to save $161 annually if you just do that one thing. And beans are really good for you. They have a lot of fiber, iron. You team it with a rice or another grain, and it becomes a whole protein. It's a good source of protein, lean protein. So it's a good idea to put more beans in on your menus, and they're really cheap. We're talking about a 16-ounce can runs about 70 cents.
And you're saying annual savings about $161 a year,
That's
so
right.
that's somewhat significant. Again, when you start putting these together, suddenly you're talking upwards in the hundreds and maybe even hitting, the $1,000 mark. Rapidly running out of time. Got time for one more here. And the 21, they're all available in the new issue of Shop Smart Magazine. Instead of buying lots of fancy spices for your cabinet, try paring down. And I think we've all gone through that. We have all these spices. We suddenly decide, okay, we're going to try this, and we look and the thing's been expired for 3 years.
Oh, absolutely. They go very quickly, especially depending upon how you store them. They can be a little finicky. And we're saying if you get a recipe that calls for a zillion spices, look at the main ones and just use those. I mean, I can't tell you how many recipes that I've left out the bay leaf and left out certain things, and the recipe tastes just fine. So yes, it may not be exactly as the recipe said, but you don't have to necessarily go out and buy every single spice. And some of these things, especially when you're cooking, more soups and less expensive meals, they make up for it in taste by putting a lot of spices in. You don't need to put every little ingredient in, every little spice that they called for.
Just several of the 21 creative ways to cut food cost available in the new issue of Shop Smart Magazine, available all across the country. You can subscribe online, shopsmartmag.org. Sue Perry has been our guest, deputy editor. You've been listening to This Week in America.